It's going well, thank you.
Tell the crowd about yourself.
Okay. After that warm introduction, I can't imagine what else to say. Yeah, it's true. Everything he said was true. There's also Fullmetal Alchemist and some other stuff too. But yeah, I started in voice work in 1998. Then I went on to directing, and then I went on to script writing, and I do 2 out of the 3 to this day, and maybe doing the 3rd one again. That's a long story, but anyway. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Year 2 for Connecticon. So yeah, that's all. It's
awesome.
All good.
Happy you're here.
In the hood. Thank you.
I'm going to open up for the questions right now. So feel free. Right there.
Joe Cirillo, GameXS.net. Good to see you again. Remember you from Quinnicon?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Out of curiosity, since you have done voice acting and voice directing, does the fact that you have a voice acting background improve on how you direct other people?
I think one informs the other. I think it works both ways. I think when you're in the booth with someone else, there's a shorthand now because you kind of know what they want. You can tell more what they're asking for, and so that's as far as acting. As far as directing, yeah, I think so too. I think just working as a team, I like that teamwork. You don't get that with script writing. It's very solitary. I like script writing. In fact, every time you don't see me this weekend, I'm in my room, hunched over a laptop, writing a script. It's due Sunday, by the way. So, and that's very solitary. That's very different. But I love the collaborative nature of acting and directing in this forum. So it's really good. But yeah, I think one helps the other in both cases.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Right there.
Oh, am I? Okay.
You can do it.
Like Nick Gansel from GeekVision.tv. Because you've done, voice work and are, also doing script writing, when you write characters, do you hear in your head the voices? And does that make it difficult when people try to play the characters and you're like, that's so not how I heard the character?
Well, then the actor comes out, I'm like, that's not me. Actually, what happens is, it's a cool auditions. I remember writing that. Actually, what happens is, I was talking to some other script writers, and they say, in their mind, they go ahead and cast the whole thing. So for them, it's like, okay, that character looks smart and wears glasses, that's J. Michael Tatum. That character is like, gosh, that's what Michael Solisotto. Like, in other words, they will cast it, and then when they do that, it helps them with the flaps, because they know how every person talks, and the flaps, everybody speaks at different rates of speed. But yeah, I do think of the voices. I do try to imagine, not who it is, but what they would sound like. And just like reading a book, when you crack a book open, you imagine the world, you imagine what they look like and sound like, and I do the same thing with the sound. So yeah, I do that. And it helps the writing because it makes you figure out how to slow down the flaps. So yeah, that's the only thing is, with adapting, it's a pre-written, the story's there. You're adapting, so it's already written. So now it just becomes the imprisonment of getting the same idea across with, 2 flaps for a paragraph. So you have to condense or vice versa, so that's the problem. But I definitely hear the voices of the characters, yeah.
Right there.
Geeky Panda here from the Geeky Panda blog. Is there been animes out there that you really enjoy watching to yourself, like, hey, this is great?
Yeah, it's funny about when you direct having directed for 8 years, now when I watch anime, I can't help but subconsciously, and I want to enjoy it, of course, but I pull it apart. I go, that was a splice, that was a second take, that was a third take. I know that guy, I've never heard him before. Why did they use that? That's a great, like like the Matrix is pulled back, and now I'm no longer invested in the story. I'm just like, it's like, a Jenga puzzle being put together, and I'm just watching it. And also, it doesn't help that I know a lot of the people involved, so now I just go, hey, Joe just blew that line. So like, I'm not giving C3 King it almost, but I still enjoy it. But there are times when I can watch something and even I'm taken out of it, and I'm just able to watch it for what it is. And when that happens, I go, wow, that must be really good. So that has happened every once in a while. But for the most part, it's harder and harder for me to watch it for what it is because I see behind it. It's like a magician doing tricks for other magicians. Like, the rabbit's back there, that's it's that. But I still appreciate, maybe if nothing else, it helps me appreciate the art of putting it together. Because I definitely empathize with how hard it is to make that train, go down the tracks. So that's really, it allows me empathy, put it that way. And yes, I still like anime. I should add that. And by the way, for me, one of the examples of the ones where I went, wow, that's really good, was the Hellsing series. I still love that. And that show, although, and even still, I know there's some of the people who worked on it, but I still thought, wow, that's really good. So there are some examples.
Saw a hand back there.
Dan from GuysNation.com. Big fan of your work from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite shows. And from Kenshi, which I just finished watching. And you voiced probably one of my favorite characters.
Oh, great.
So I want to know, when you came up with what you were doing for Sing Freud, how did you just his, because that's a very kooky character. How did you,
The opera singing.
yes,
Yeah.
how did you come up with what you wanted to do for that character?
Well, it's always a collaboration. I was brought in specifically to do that character because Monica Rial, who was directing at the time, she thought I would be perfect for it. I didn't even know a lot about it going in. I was already Tashimaru, the mouse, by the way, but in the show. But leading up to it, I thought it was wacky. I do sing a little bit here and there, although hopefully not as terribly as that guy. But the original Seiyu, in my opinion, he played it as a joke to sing off key a lot. That was the joke, was he was kind of like a really bad singer. Believe it or not, I tried to stay on key poorly, if that makes sense. Like, well, I was doing this over-the-top opera singer, but I was trying to make it sort of legit, but I had a great time doing that. He was over-the-top, and I love over-the-top characters because I don't get to do that in real life, so that was fun.
If I could ask one more, speaking of over the top, Gluttony.
Yeah.
That was a good series, but how did you come up with what you want? Did they give you something like, this is how we see the character, or did they just say, this is who he is, run with it?
Well, it changed. First of all, Gluttony, nobody rocks a black unitard like Gluttony. It changed first. When it first started, he was kind of monsterier than even the Japanese, and they slowly sort of tapered that off into more of a sort of a confused evil man-child type voice that it turned out to be. And that did change over time, but it was just weird. It was great working on, actually, this doesn't really happen a lot, but I got to work on 2 different shows where I worked on the show, it was over, 6 years happened, it started again. And I'm talking about Dragon Ball Z and Kai, or in this case, Full Metal and Brotherhood. And so to go to school, have a summer break, and go back to school, but it's school you like, by the way, is really unique. So that was really a unique experience, and I liked working on Brotherhood more than the first one because I felt comfortable doing it. It was like an old friend, like, okay, I know how to do this now. Whereas before, you're always unsure, an actor is always unsure. But the second time was more fun for me, even though he's not around as long. But for the most part, I had a great time. And that was a collaborative thing too. But we did tweak it a little bit. Those first few episodes he was in for the beginning of Full Metal, you'll notice a slight change by like episode 1 through 10. Right in there it changes. It goes from lower to higher and creepier. So yeah, definitely.
I saw your hand.
Charles from Full Coverage Writers. As a script writer and voice actor, are there any times throughout this whole process where it's kind of just left to, you have time to talk, improv, versus it's all just scripted and kind of set up for you?
Yeah, well, even as an actor, do you get the opportunity to improvise?
Yeah, how much is scripted versus improvised, and how much do you put in there?
It's pretty loose, particularly in the case of comedies, or obviously, as you can imagine, comedies are more like that. Although I have to say, in the case of, one example I'll use, I did not write on, but there's a show that Funimation did called Shin-Chan, they dubbed called Shin-Chan, and I love that show, it's ridiculous, but they had probably 6 or 7, normally a team of 2 will write one show. In this case, they had a team of 6. And the scripts were very dense. It's all digital now, it's a flat screen, but if you were to print them out, the scripts were that thick. It was like a little phone book because for every joke, there were 5 or 6 alternative lines that were other jokes. So then it became director's discretion. So the director would work with the actor and think, I like joke 4 right now, and they would use that. So they had so much to pull from. So in the case of Shin-Chan, which actually seems like a show where there'd be a lot of improvisation, there wasn't because it was so densely packed with jokes. But yeah, we add words here or there. We will try to make things better as much as we can in the room. And the script is very fluid. It's not set in stone. A lot of times, authors particularly, of which there are quite a few guests this year, many of them hold their words very preciously. In other words, it's done, it's over, and not a word can be changed. But in the case of anime dubbing, it's very fluid. Things are changed all the time. And I know that too, writing a script. I know here's what I've got, and then I'm sure it'll be changed in the moment. So, and sometimes if the script is really bad, if you're a director, you can get an assistant, you want to get an assistant writing credit because you've changed it so many times. But yeah, the script is always up for interpretation, even during production.
Saw your hand.
I'm Jason Lenetsky, cosplay NYC magazine. You were joking earlier about Gluttony rocking the leotard. I was wondering how you feel when you see some of your characters brought out by cosplayers walking around conventions. And have you ever thought of cosplaying yourself?
Well, there goes my sit-up joke. I think, first of all, it feels great, you know, but I take it with a grain of salt because I know that they're dressed up as the character, not necessarily the dub, for example. Although I do feel somewhat aligned, you know, my piece of it, I do feel aligned to the character, so I love it. You know, I wish I would see more and more. I even get that way when it's a show that I just wrote and I've never voiced. Just when I wrote, let's see, Moggy the Labyrinth of Magic, I wrote that. And when I see characters from the show, I just love, I'm like, I know you. Like, I just like that. And as far as doing it myself, I'm not, whether gluttony or otherwise, I'm not going to do it because, one, I'm not good at it. I don't want to disrespect the art form. And two, it's kind of like the band who's playing, who wears their band t-shirt on stage. I just don't think that's cool. So I'll probably let the pros do it. So, yeah, but I'm all thumbs with needle and thread, so I would be terrible at it.
Back there.
Dan Warren from GuysNation.com. You've been a part of a lot of big series, either, you know, in the booth or behind the booth. How does it feel to be a part of these, you know, just these very inspirational series that have these large following of fans, from Dragon Ball Z to Kenshi to Full Metal? I mean, how does it feel to be a part of these big series?
I love it. I mean, not to be too philosophical so early in the morning, or is it early? It is for me. But I feel like, you know, obviously one day I'll be dead, but these shows won't. And I only do any of this stuff for two reasons: to make myself happy and make other people happy. And I'm already happy. So I like the idea that when I'm gone, something that I did or was a small part of, will go on to make other people happy way down the line in the future. So I love the idea that it will last forever and it'll bring people joy. So I love that.
Time for about 2 more questions. Right there in the blue.
Inc. from AdamGamers.com. Before you spoke to a sense of comfort or returning to home when doing the Dragon Ball and Kai and Full Metal and Brotherhood, could you speak to some of the challenges of trying to recreate a character but with a slight difference?
Let's see. Well, in the case of, sometimes they want it to be eerily exact, in which case they'll play a lot of references from the previous show, and you have to go over it and over it to get it exact. At the same time, I think it's inherent to the voice itself as an instrument that it will be slightly different. I know we came back and worked on, let's see, it was one of the multiple incarnations of DBZ. Which one was it? Wow, I can't remember which one. There have been many, but I noticed that when we come back for pickups or come back to have an actor fill in some gaps or some words here or there, lines, the voice typically will get lower, inherently lower. No matter who you are, the voice will get lower. And so I think your voice sort of tries to fall into that comfort zone where you know you can do it a long time. Although in the case of Z, obviously, you're screaming a lot. And there's no way around. I mean, all the hot tea and the advice in the world, if you're standing stock still in a room with a mic and you're going 0 to 60, doing these power-up yells, which are the low to high, that kind of thing, there's no, I mean, that's just not occur in life. I don't care how much you're yelling, you don't yell like that much. So, I mean, and there were tricks too. We talked about different ways of maybe doing some Pro Tool splicing, where you would go, water, water, water. And you keep it going, and it never worked. We tried everything because there are so many yells and they're so long that you thought, okay, maybe we have the tools, but it still sounds like you can hear the break. So it was finally just people yelling in a room. So yeah, I would say that the nuances all would be just making it more comfortable in your own voice and typically slightly lower, especially after yelling.
Over there.
Frella from WHUS. Can you give us a sampling from your favorite line?
Ever?
Ever.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like, I know it's a diplomatic answer, but they're all my children. I couldn't pick one. I don't know my favorite line. What's funny is people tell me what theirs are, and I usually just give it back because it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to everybody. It's really hard to say. Well, let's see. One of the, but I'll do it anyway. I've noticed too that when someone says, "What's your favorite character?" and then you tell them, maybe it's a character that to you is special, but maybe not that many people have seen it. They're like, "No," they don't want to hear that. They want to hear the one that's been on TV that millions of people have seen. But an eerie line would be, Gluttony has an eerie line, although he doesn't string that many sentences together. But when let's see, it was in the first one, and he said, "Can I eat the preacher?" It was creepy to me. So anytime you're eating a preacher, sends chills. So that.
All right, we have to wrap it up, sadly, because we're pressed for time. Please join Chris today at 5:30 p.m. as he peels back the curtain and discusses what it's like to take the written anime words from the script to the screen. Thank you, Chris Cason.
You're welcome.